So today I thought I'd do another Battlefield mailbox where you guys can submit your questions to me and I'll answer them in the video as best as I can. I think it's a really pivotal point for Battlefield 4 at the moment, what with Second Assault already being out and Naval Strike just around the corner. So it's a really good time to get some questions in. I think it's a really relevant time. But today we're going to start off with a question that's a little bit different and is something that we think might be coming in the future. The question comes from Enzo Golke and he has this to ask. Westy, are you supporting the idea of a police-themed Battlefield game? Now before I go ahead and answer this question, I want to give you a little bit of background because some of you might not be familiar with what this guy's talking about. So basically, Visceral Games, an EA studio, there are rumours going around at the moment that they are going to be developing another Battlefield title that's due to come out at the end of 2014. Sort of fitting in with that yearly release cycle that EA have been wanting to do for ages but can't get the second franchise right. We've already seen Medal of Honor die. And it's going to be, well supposedly, a police-themed Battlefield game. And I think it's the idea along being something a little bit more casual, a little bit more laid back than the actual Battlefield games. And again, it's to fill that gap in between each Battlefield game that comes out from DICE. So now going back to the question, am I actually going to be supporting the game? I think that's something I can't really answer right now. I can give you my thoughts on it. It does seem like a little bit of a far-fetched idea for a police-themed Battlefield game. It seems very far out from what we'd actually expect from a Battlefield title. Now the guys that are supposedly developing it, Visceral Games, have actually had some really good titles over the years. Dead Space and Dead Space 2 were really good games. Dead Space 3 wasn't, but that's really besides the point. I think they are fit to make a Battlefield game, and I think they'll give it a good go. It's just dependent as to whether the community will actually adopt the game that they end up making if this rumour comes true. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that people like DICE developing the Battlefield game, and bringing another developer in might cause a little bit of a rift in the community. I'm not really sure. I mean, I for one would be a little bit concerned if they just announced it out of the blue that Visceral Games were going to make the next Battlefield game. The fact that this rumour has sort of started to spread around is, I think, giving somebody a little bit of a forewarning that this could happen and will lead people slowly into thinking that it's probably a good idea. But really, it's dependent on how the community actually adopts the game, not just them announcing it and people playing it, because the Battlefield community, I think, are a little bit more sensible than the Call of Duty community, where COD are just fed game after game after game and will continue to play it, where us in this community actually want change between each game. We want progression, and if bringing in another developer could bring that, but at the same time, it could hinder the fact that DICE is pretty much the Battlefield developer, and I think that a lot of people will stay true to DICE. So really, I can't really say whether I'd support the game or not. I'd give it a go, just like any other FPS shooter. I mean, Titanfall I gave a go and I absolutely loved it, and I'm still really enjoying it now. So, I mean, it's something that I definitely will give a go, but it remains to be seen as to whether other people will actually support the game, and I think it's got a lot to do with the community taking that up. Moving on to the next question today, which comes in from Comiskey11. He has this to ask. Westy, what are your thoughts on DICE bringing in Ghillie Suits into Battlefield 4? I'm going to answer this very simply, yes. Just bring them in, DICE. It's something that's been featured in Bad Company 2, and a lot of you may not remember, but there was actually a Spec Act kit that was released and actually gave you a different Ghillie suit if you bought that Spec Act upgrade. I think it was about £5 on the PS3 if I remember rightly. Was gaming on the PS3 then. And I know it was released for PC as well as a free update, as all of Bad Company 2's DLCs on PC, apart from Vietnam, came out for free, which was really nice. But as to whether they should bring them back into Battlefield 4, definitely. I'm really actually quite disappointed with some of the looks of the soldiers in Battlefield 4. I don't think they're quite as distinguished as they were in Battlefield 3 and Bad Company 2. You knew exactly who you were coming up against if you saw those guys off in the distance. And the Ghillie sniper was just amazing. I just think it was so poignant to have it as the recon role. And I think perhaps we should be able to choose. So if you want to go with sort of like one camo or another, you should be able to choose that like you did in Battlefield 3, and you can do in Battlefield 4. But rather than just changing the colours of the clothing that the player has on their back, you should be able to actually choose different outfits that are sort of set. So you could have like a Ghillie sniper, or you could have like aggressive recon with grenade pouches on the front and C4 pouches on his arms and things like that. I think that would be a really cool addition to the Battlefield series, and specifically Battlefield 4, because as I said, I'm not really overly thrilled with how the soldiers look, but giving that back to the recon would be a really cool move by DICE. Question number 3 today comes in from MK Worthless, and I'm sort of going to summarise what he's saying. Basically, Westy, do you think we should have other options as secondary weapons in Battlefield 4? Not just pistols, but other weapons too. Now at the moment in Battlefield 4 we do have access to the Shorty 12G, which is a secondary shotgun which only has 3 shells that you can load into it at a time and doesn't do near as much damage as some of the normal shotguns, but it actually makes as a viable secondary weapon for somebody like a sniper, or somebody's got like a really fast firing weapon that takes a long time to reload, like LMGs. You can whip out your shotgun and kill that guy that's standing right next to you. I think it's a really good alternative to some of the pistols. But in terms of what else we could add in there, I'm thinking maybe like sort of mini submachine guns. I mean, MK Worthless mentioned the UZI, and I think that would be a really good idea. Only limiting it to maybe like 20 rounds in a magazine and making sure that its damage was only maybe around sort of 12 to 15 damage points. I think that would probably be a really good idea. Maybe so that you can have the same attachments that you have with the pistols, so maybe like the ghost ring sight and the mini RDS. Making sure that it's definitely defined as a secondary weapon, but still make it actually viable to use. I think it's a really good idea. The only problem I can see arising is that everyone would start using it. No one would bother using pistols anymore, because if you had something like an UZI in close quarters, it's going to rip through people. Why would you choose the M1911, which can't fire as fast but does more damage? Why would you choose that over an UZI? I mean, it's even harder already that having the shotgun in close range means that you can just rip through people. I mean, I don't actually see that many people using it, and I'm quite surprised because it does absolutely devastating damage at close range, and 2 shots at medium range and you'll drop the guy. So I don't know why it's used as much. It isn't used as much as it is, but I think in adding too many, we could actually see some unbalance come into it. And we may just end up seeing people just using those weapons instead of using a true secondary weapon, which is what the pistol is anyway. But that about just wraps up episode 5 of Battlefield 4 Mailbox. We've got to episode 5, which I'm really proud of because I'm really bad at doing series on this channel. But if you want your question answered in episode 6 of Battlefield Mailbox, make sure you leave a comment down below. And if you enjoyed this episode today, make sure you hit the like button. In terms of Second Assault, I am working on a video for you guys. I'm just having far too much fun playing the DLC at the moment. I'm really enjoying the new Metro. But that video will most likely drop later in the week. But until then, my name's Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.